Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to kick off my Hong Kong reviews, which have been a long time coming. I've been here about 4 months now, and this is the first sit-down review that I'm actually filming for you, and it just took a little while to get settled here, and to be honest, I wanted a little bit of a break. From doing sit-down reviews while I got settled and met new people and stuff like this, and it's been really nice. But yeah, I have built up a little bit of a stockpile of beer during that time, so it's time to start kind of clearing out the fridge and getting rid of it, and there's only one way to do that, so here we are. But yeah, for this first review that I'm filming in Hong Kong, I thought it would be nice to go with one of the local breweries, and the brewery that we're visiting today has featured on the channel a couple of times before. These guys are a really interesting brewery because they do a wide variety of different styles, some really very good beers in my experience, and the one that we're going to have a look at today is actually one of their newer beers, if memory serves me correctly. It's one that I've had many times at the tap room in Central, and it's one that I know is really nice, so I'm quite curious to see what this canned version of it is going to be like, because I don't think I've ever drunk it out of the can, come to think of it. So needless to say, I'm really curious to see how this beer is going to turn out. Hopefully it's as good as I remember, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head a little bit to the northwest of me here in Kowloon. We're going to go to an area called Kwai Chung, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Yardley Brothers Brewery. So this particular beer is called Voss. It comes in at 5% ABV, and this one is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. That said, with this one using a Norwegian Voss yeast, you probably could call this a Kwai IPA, because yeah, the Kwai yeasts are from Voss, and that's probably where they've got this name from. So technically this one is a Kwai IPA, but yeah, you can just call it a hazy IPA, as they've done. But yeah, it comes in at 5% ABV. As I say, I've had this beer a number of times, but never out of the can, so curious to see if it's as good in the can as it is on tap. So let's crack on with this one and see how we get on. Always cool to feature Yardley Brothers here on the channel. Really nice brewery and very nice people behind it as well. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Yardley Brothers Brewery before, and there will definitely be more added to that in the fairly near future. I've got some really nice beers to look at from these guys, but there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember, you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the Hong Kong playlist along with a number of other beers. That's being added to quite regularly, of course, while I'm based out here, and you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries as well. And I do recommend that you do that because there are some really nice things on the channel these days. But let's crack on with this one and tell you a little bit about Yardley Brothers in the meantime. So, on to my brewery notes. So Yardley Brothers Brewery was founded by Luke and Duncan Yardley, hence the name. So the brothers are half Scottish, half English, and Luke previously worked as a parts wholesaler and ended up staying in Hong Kong after meeting a girl, and then he married another one later on, who is Ting Ting, of course. So yeah, she's lovely. But he and Duncan actually homebrewed at home and then took it up again when Duncan joined Luke in Hong Kong back in 2014, and they mainly started homebrewing because they couldn't get a hold of the beers that they wanted to drink themselves. So the first brewery that they had was on Llama Island in a little shack, and in 2016 they decided to move production to an industrial building. So their first brewery was on the 5th floor of an industrial building, and the rent was very cheap there in comparison to other places. As you'll maybe know, the rent in Hong Kong is horrendous for both residential and for industrial. But apparently when they tried to move into this brewery, the tanks wouldn't fit in the lift. So they had to get 8 people to help push them up the stairs, and they got them all the way up to the 5th floor, which I can imagine was a bit of a nightmare. But they stayed in this brewery for a number of years, and that original brewery was in the Kwai Chung area, which is to the northwest of Kowloon, in the Wat Tat Industrial Centre. But these days, they've also got the beer shack out on Lamma, which is not in its original location. but you'll find that on the kind of northwestern part of the island. If you do go out to Lama, which is very beautiful, walk from the south and finish up in the northwest and visit the beer shack. It's a good way to kind of unwind if you like. But they've also got a tap room in Central these days as well on Peel Street, which is worth visiting. That's where I go fairly often actually. But in the last few years, they've been developing their barrel program, which started back in 2018, and they very recently moved into a new and larger brewery, still in Kwai, Chung, which, as I said, is to the northwest of Kowloon. But as of February 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 160 different kinds of beer, lots of different styles, like I said, and yeah, they've done just some really insane stuff. Just after filming this video, I'm not sure exactly when it will publish, but they are going to release Mango Sticky Mango, which is a re-release Mango Sticky Mango, and that beer is an absolute monster. They've done a whole host of different things over the years. Very recently I had a really nice nitro brown ale from them, which was great, and I do hope they actually brew a batch of that up and put the cans and things out there. That would be great. But they've been doing some really good sour beers in recent times as well, and you'll see a few of those reviewed on the channel over the next little while. I think that's all we can really say about Yardley Brothers Brewing for the moment, though. You might have seen my video that I did with Luke Yardley. How long ago would that have been? I think that was back in April that we filmed that. It took me a little while to get it up and published though, but yeah, you'll maybe see Luke and things on the channel, some of the other guys from the brewery as well at some point in the future, since we're based out here now. But that's everything I can tell you about Yardley Brothers Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So let's go on and actually have a little taste of this beer itself. So I'll let you have a wee look at the artwork on this one, which is quite simple compared to some of the other stuff you'll find from Yardley Brothers Brewery. This is a 330 milliliter can, if I'm not mistaken. It doesn't say the volume on the can actually, but yeah, plain silver top on it, which is what you'd expect, and it tells you a little bit about the beer on the back. So it says, brewed with Voss, Kwai, Norwegian farmhouse yeast, Citra, Eldorado and Yakima 586 hops. Intense aroma from the combination of the Voss, Kwai yeast and hops, citrus, sweet, candied fruit, tangerine and lychee finish. In the world of specialist yeast, Voss, Kwai yeast stands tall, an indisputable boss with a lineage and flavour profile that commands respect, crafted in Hong Kong. So yeah, interesting, very interesting. So yeah, there have been a few different versions of this beer. I think the ABV can vary a little bit. The one that's listed on Untappd I think is 5.8% ABV, but the one that's in the can here is 5%. And that is the thing that you'll find with Yardley Brothers Brew. They do tweak their recipes. They keep the beer, but just tweak the recipe a little bit and, you know, change the hop bill and things like that. So yeah, they're kind of still getting into the rhythm, I guess, of their new brewery, but some of the beers just now, particularly Hong Kong Bastard, is tasting very, very nice. So let's get this one out into the glass and see how we got on. The Voss Boss Hazy IPA, 5%. This one should be very, very nice. Let's get this guy out and see what it's all about. It looks good. That head is going to disappear quite quickly. So you can see the head on this one has poured out to be, it came out about, between a half and a 2/3 finger of a frothy kind of bubbly head there. You can see some medium-sized bubbles on the top of the liquid there, and a few foamier ones the further up that you go, but that head is fading away to just be a very thin foamy layer at the moment. There's just a wee ring around the edge of the glass and a little bit of an island in the middle, but the carbonation in this one is a wee bit active, but that's maybe because it's been in the can a little bit longer. I actually won this can at the sort of Christmas party thing that they did at Yardley's. So yeah, this was been in the can about 6 weeks or something like that, because I know those cans that they brought were pretty fresh actually. So yeah, this beer is about 6 weeks old at the time of filming. But yeah, should be in good shape. One or two big bubbles sticking toward the side of the glass then, a few little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there, and I can see a steady flow of carbonation just coming up to the surface on this beer. But yeah, looks very, very nice. In terms of colour, I would describe this one as being a sort of mango juice yellow. I always like comparing The colour of hazy IPA is just the different fruit juices, because that's really what they remind me of. But yeah, this one does look pretty good, I have to say. So remember, the colour of your beer can depend on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your ABV. Sorry, not your ABV, your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. But any barrel aging that you do, or any adjuncts that you put into the beer, will affect its colour too. But yeah, you don't often have to care about that with IPAs, to be honest with you. Yeah, level of haze on this one, I have to say, for a 5%er, it's got a fairly impressive level of haze in it. So remember, the level of haze in these beers depends on the oak content, wheat content, and to a degree what yeast you use. That can vary from brewery to brewery and beer to beer. But yeah, for a 5%er, this one is pretty damn hazy, and probably a good chunk of that will be down to the use of the Voss yeast in this one. Voss Kwai IPAs do tend to be pretty hazy in comparison to others. This one also has lactose in it as well, which I didn't really take in at the time. I didn't realise they used lactose in this beer, but it helps the mouthfeel quite a little bit. But yeah, other than that, I don't know if we really need to say much about the appearance of this one. It looks the part of a hazy IPA. I think we can move on and go to the aroma section now. So let's do that. Oh yeah, aroma-wise, this smells pretty nice. Kind of what I'd expect of the beer, to be honest with you, based on previous experience. I will say it comes across as being a little bit more lemony and kind of citrusy than the ones you'll get on the tap. But at the same time, it's giving you everything else you'd expect, especially of a kind of Kwai IPA. So yeah, when it comes to hazy IPAs, as I say, there are 6 kind of elements you should look for. You know, you've got farmhousey yeasty character, rye lean and grainy things, then you've got barley malt bread, wheaty bitiness, oaty creaminess, and also the sweeter side of things. Obviously, when you have a Kwai IPA, you're going to get more of the yeasty character, but quite often these beers work very well as well with some smoother oats, and yeah, with some kind of smoother oats and a little bit of bitey wheat and things like that as well. In my experience, American oats are a bit smoother than European oats. I think American oats are a bit drier, whereas the European ones are a bit smoother. Whereas the American wheat is smoother, the European wheat is a bit kind of drier and more bitey. That's what I was going to say, or what I meant to say. But yeah, with this one, you certainly get a lot of the yeasty character. You've got a nice big green component as well, which you expect from an IPA of any description. And yeah, you've got the lovely big fruity notes out of it. So let's just break the aroma down for you and describe it a wee bit more in depth. So, aroma-wise, for me, the backbone of the beer is absolutely that fresh, kind of white bready bread crust. That is your backbone of your beer. You've got little elements of cracker in there. You do have bits of wood and things like that as well, which I think is great. So yeah, lots of crackery, woody notes. Some yeah, big crackery, woody notes. Some I would say on top of that, you've got a little bit of a kind of brown bready sort of character as well, which I think is great. Yeah, a bit of brown bread, a lot of white bread in there, wee bits of woodiness, wee bits of cracker. I do get a little hint of like, you can smell a little bit of an almost like vanilla-y, milky sort of thing out of this one, which will be the lactose. And there is a little bit of a biscuity note, you know, like a McVitie's digestive biscuity type character coming out of this one too. Maybe a little hint of like Werther's Original butter candy caramel type thing. There is a definite bit of sweetness to this one, but you'll get a lot less of that when you actually taste the thing. You know, that this beer is going to be a yeasty leaning New England hazy. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But yeah, I think at that we've said everything we need to about the kind of malty and yeasty side of the beer. I think we've covered that quite well. So if we go to the hoppy side of things then, green component first. So green component for me, you've got a lovely big bright floral green component to this one. And as I've explained in many videos before, when it comes to IPAs, you have 3 types of hoppings. You've got early edition hopping, which is done usually within the first hour of the wort boil. That'll give you mainly bitterness and a deeper, danker aroma. You've got late edition hopping, which is done within the last half hour of the wort boil. That gives you mainly flavour and aroma, little touch of bitterness though, and it's going to give you a very bright green component on the nose. Dry hopping, which takes place after the wort boil is complete, is all about the kind of aroma and flavour side of things, and it's going to give you a very bright green component as well. New England hazy IPAs tend to rely on late edition and dry hopping, whereas West Coast IPAs use all 3, hence why the West Coast IPAs are deeper, danker and more bitter than New England's or hazies more generally. But yeah, you can smell the brightness of this green component in here. This one, the green component in this is, you've got a little touch of earthiness in there, but mainly very bright, very floral. You've got a lot of kind of nice grassy and zesty notes coming out of this one too, which I think is really interesting. Out of the 2 hops in this one, we've got Citra, or 3 hops rather. We've got Citra, Eldorado, and Yakima in this one. So all 3 of these hops are American. The Yakima 586 is an experimental variety that I'm not familiar with, so I can't really say much about that. But Citra is about 14% alpha acid, good bit of grapefruit, good bit of mango. Quite often you're going to get some other complexities from it as well. In New England, I tend to get a little bit of a lemon limey character out of it. And then Eldorado is interesting. I've always had a lot of pineapple and passion fruit out of Eldorado. It's about 12% alpha acid normally. But yeah, I keep knocking this can, it's annoying. But yeah, this one, on the fruity side of things, you do get that little bit more intense grapefruit, which is from the Citra. Quite a bit of passion fruit as well, and quite a ripe mango and passion fruit coming out of this beer. And you can smell the softer pineapple as well. I almost get a wee bit of guava out of this too. The mango is so ripe that it gives you this almost kind of green guava type note to it. So yeah, grapefruit, passion fruit, mango, sort of guava-y notes in there. It's a lot of tropical fruit, to be quite honest with you, this one. So yeah, lots of tropical fruit in this one. Good little bit of a kind of lemony, zesty, limey character as well coming out of it, which I think is most likely to be the Citra. But as I say, I don't really know the Yakima hops that well. I have to say the 586. I'm sure I've had something with this variety in it before, but yeah, I don't really know that much about it. So yeah, this will be quite interesting in that regard. They're saying on the can they're lychee, which you can sometimes get from Citra, and they're also saying tangerine, but I can see a little bit of the tangerine, not so much of the lychee, but yeah, I'd say quite a bit of I get a lot of lime out of this one, and I certainly get quite strong. Tropical notes, which is most likely from the Citra in this one. So yeah, the way that the aroma in this one goes together, I think, is quite nice actually. So as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy the aroma of your beer before you get stuck into it, but I think it is about time that we have a go at this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the Voss, a 5% hazy IPA with Kwai yeast from the wonderful Yardley Brothers Brewery in Kwai, Chung here in Hong Kong. So let's do this. Slàinte, skål, cheers, Ganbei. Ooh, it's very, very smooth, this one. Really soft and really juicy. Yeah, that's one of the things about this beer is if you drink it on the tap, quite often it comes in and you get a hell of a lot of the floral character out of it. It comes in really citrusy. It's got a bit of bite to it for the first few sips, but you'll find that as you drink more and more of this, and I think it's probably just the way the air gets into it as well, which is one of the reasons why I like doing these kind of longer format reviews. As the air gets into the beer a little bit, it just kind of mellows out and gives you, it just mellows out and it gives you that wee bit more kind of smoothness and softness and things like that, like you would expect of a kind of hazy IPA. But yeah, flavour profile wise, this is good. I would say that it's not the most kind of yeasty and dry sort of fake IPA, if you like, and that's probably because of the presence of the lactose in here. But if you just think of it as a kind of regular hazy IPA, then it's pretty damn good actually. Yeah, this one is really nice, and at 5% as well, it's really quite sessionable. When it comes to the more West Coasty stuff, they've got the Machine Men Pale Ale, the Llama Island IPA, and they've also got the Hong Kong Bastard. And I like the Bastard the best, not because it's the strongest. I just like the really intense flavour that it has. I'd be curious to see them amp this beer up a little bit and try, you know, a sort of 7-8%er, because I think they would do really well with it. It'd be call it Voss Big Boss or something like that. But or Voss King would be the next step. But yeah, this is really nice, and I'm glad that the canned version of this one does it justice, because I think Yardleys are going to start looking to export a little bit over the next wee while. So yeah, this is good. The canned version of the beer is pretty damn solid actually. So yeah, let's break this beer down and describe the flavour for you a wee bit more in depth, as we always do. So, backbone of the beer then, let's go to that middle third of the palate. You can feel the backbone of this beer is that lovely kind of fresh white bready bread crust. You get that, you know, you get that kind of hedgehog white bready bread crust in there. Hedgehog white bready bread crust. So the backbone of the beer is that, and as you move further forward on that middle third of your palate, you get a little bit more, you can feel there's a little bit more of a kind of woody character in there, and you can certainly feel, particularly on the front half of that middle third of your tongue, you do get a nice little bit of like a Jacob's cream cracker sort of flavour coming out of this one. And I do really like how all of that pieces together in this beer. On top of that though, there's definitely a little bit of like a kind of dry, brown, wholemeal bready character coming out. So yeah, dry, brown bready, wholemeal character in there. On top of that, you get some softer white bread as well. Quite a dry white bread, come to think of it. So yeah, drier white bread in there. Jacob's cream cracker, and then yeah, you've got, yeah, you have all of the other stuff sitting on top of that. So you can feel, I don't think there's oat in this one, it just says malt, which I'm guessing is barley malt, and you don't really have such a, you have a little bit of a wheaty character. I wonder if there is a bit of wheat in this one, malted wheat, because it does, there is a little touch of bitiness there on the back of that middle third of your palate, but certainly you can feel there's a bit more of a, you go into the aftertaste and you can feel a slightly denser white bready character. On top of that, you have the kind of smoothness, which is almost like oaty. You can feel a bit of the lactose in there. But in the dead centre of your palate, you can feel a little circle there, which is a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy sort of thing. And as you move out from that, you've got a wee bit more of a kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity type character coming out of the beer, which I really do like. So yeah, there's a lovely McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing coming out of this beer as well, particularly the aftertaste. I think at that point we said everything we need to about the middle third of the palate, so let's go to the back third of the palate now. As I often say, the back third of your palate is going to give you similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just different intensities. But the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of kind of bready build up in the base, more of a brown bready character. You can feel the white bread on top of that, but then the base of that back third of your tongue has that nice kind of fresh wholemeal brown bready bread. It's got more of a kind of, yeah, wholemeal brown bready bread crust character, but then on top of that you get the kind of lighter, more airy brown bread, and then above that a lighter, more airy white bread, and you can feel a little bit of a kind of dry, wheaty, pardon me, a little bit of a kind of more dry, wheaty bready character just creeping on top of that, and then you get all the yeasty character sitting above that. And for me, the yeasty side of the beer, it's like quite dense in the middle, so you get that really kind of dense, wheaty type character coming out of the beer. Dense like wheaty bread. Then around that you get a more wholemeal bread, and then you get a little bit of a kind of bread crusty thing. But all of that yeasty character sits on top of everything else on the back third of the palate. But certainly you can feel the back third of your palate, the flavour is taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together that little bit more. And I think at that point we've covered everything we need to say about the malty, yeasty side of the beer. So, I think we can move on to the green component first then. In the back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of earthiness there. And as you move further forward, it becomes a little touch herbal. And as you push further forward along the sides of your tongue, you start to get more of a kind of floral aromatic sort of thing coming out of this one. So yeah, nice little bit more of a more floral aromatic type vibe to this beer. And it's quite a wet green component, I would say that as well. You get more of the floral aromaticity further into the aftertaste, and then round the front curve of your tongue it's a little bit lighter and more grassy, and you've got that wee bit of kind of zestiness coming out of it as well. So yeah, quite a nice wet green component coming out of this one. Yeah, for me, I think that covers what we need to say about the green component. And this beer, as I say, it does mellow out the more and more that you drink of it. But on the front third of your tongue then, let's look at the fruity side of the beer. So the border region between front and middle third of your palate, you get a nice little bit of bready build up in there, brown bread on the base, white bread on top. Then the base of that front third of your palate, you've got a lovely kind of, you get a lovely little bit of that kind of brown bready bread crust, then white bread sitting on top of it, and then you get that nice juicy, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's look at the fruity side of things. So yeah, fruity side of the beer for me. At the back of that front third of your palate, you have some really nice, how would you say, you get some really nice kind of strong passion fruit out of the beer. I don't know if I'd go as far as grapefruit, but yeah, definitely some strong passion fruit. And as you move further forward from that, there's a little bit of that ripe guava type flavour in there, but a lot of juicy mango. And as you reach the middle of that front third of your palate, it's got a wee bit more of a kind of pineapple-y type vibe to it as well, which I have to say I do quite enjoy. I like that big kind of pineapple-y thing that it's got going on. Yeah, lovely little bit of pineapple note there. And as you move into the front half of that front third of your tongue, I find this beer gets a lot more kind of lemon and limey actually, and I think that's the Citra that's most likely to give you that. I feel a lot of lemon and lime just behind that kind of front tip of the tongue. So yeah, I feel that Citra and Eldorado are working quite well together, and I'm wondering how much of the kind of zestiness and the sort of guava type qualities that the Yakima 586 is given this one. And obviously some of your, when you've got a Voss yeast in there, you've got a Kwai yeast, some of the characters that you get out of this are going to be quite, some of them are going to be really from the yeast as well, which is quite interesting. So yeah, where everything goes together in this beer is really nice, and I do really like Voss. This is one, if I go into the Yardley's tap room, this is one I always look out for. It's always nice to have this and then a bastard, and that's your two beers for the night. It's always a good route to go down. But yeah, let's round off this review then with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So mouthfeel wise, I would say that this beer is quite, how do we say? Mouthfeel wise, I would say that it is, yeah, mid-bodied, right in the middle of the spectrum. Carbonation is quite smooth. It's got a lovely little bit of wetness to it as well. Carbonation is very, very smooth, as I've said. IBU wise, I think this is maybe about 30-ish IBUs. I think it's a fairly standard 30 IBU, this, because it's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. The malty and yeasty side of things, yeah, you get a bit of dryness in there, you get a bit of smoothness. There is a little touch of sweetness in this one, particularly into the aftertaste. Then you've got that really nice sort of wetness and juiciness from the fruity character as well. But overall, I think the way this beer goes together is really quite nice, and the canned version certainly does live up to the tap version. I think the tap version is slightly better, but yeah, I think the canned version has turned out very, very nicely in this instance too. So big thumbs up to Yardley Brothers Brewery for this one. I would say that it would probably be better as a 440 this than a 330. I think that's my only criticism that I'd have of this, but they sell quite a few other beers in the 330s rather than 440s. So we'll see how things progress in that regard, but yeah, very, very nice offering from them. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Yardley Brothers Brewery as well, and we will see about reviewing more from these guys soon. I've got a few other beers that I need to take a look at, so you'll see quite a few from these guys. But until the next time, Slàinte, Skål, cheers, Kampai, Gambé, and I'll see you guys in another review. Make sure you check out Yardley Brothers Brewery, and you can't go wrong with Voss. Ciao just now.